I mean, we're not done with like the deal and everything. We're still talking, but I'm dying to do it. I've been pretty vocal about wanting to do that part. It's what I've grown up with. I grew up in Louisiana and Mississippi, and just the South in general, and he's my favorite X-Men. I think he's like the most real of all of them. You know, he's a thief. He's not even like a hero. It's like he's not a good guy. Yeah. I mean, more of a Gambit fan than I am. Like, I'm not like a comic head. I can't say that like I know every single character and everything, but I'm a huge Gambit fan. It's the only real comic that I own.
Hello and welcome to Cancelled Movie Report, the documentary podcast that talks about the best movies that Hollywood never made. My name is Michael Campbell, but you can call me Cambo, and I cannot believe my eyes, and please do not adjust your sets. He is back for a second time this season. From the Last Video Store podcast, it's Mr. Alexei Toliopoulos.
Cambo, it is my pleasure, my privilege, and heck, I'd even say it's my honor to be back on the mics with you discussing films that never were.
I think this makes you an unofficial third member of the show now. You've come to the rescue so many times.
I'm Australia's third mic resident, you know? That's who I like to think of myself as.
You're always in the peripheral of all these different podcasts.
Yeah, that's it. I'm the third mic that is ready to go on any freaking pop culture, specifically film-based podcast there is, especially if it has a lilt of humor to it all.
Oh, well, there'll be no humor in this episode. I'll have you know, Alexei, this is serious documentarian stuff.
Oh, there we go. Let me put my documentarian hat back on, which is a hat that I keep on my person at all times.
Now, this is the last report of the season, and it's been one that's a long time coming. This has been requested a few different times, but officially through our form, it was requested by Elijah from the USA.
Hello, Elijah.
That's very nice. We've never actually acknowledged the person.
You've never said hello to a listener
the
before?
request. Elijah, if you're watching, and I hope you are, because a lot of people have worked on this, hello from Australia.
We extend a hello and a salutation to you, Elijah.
And we're so sorry for everything that's happening over there in the current situation. But this is even messier than the American situation because we're talking about the long gestating project that is Channing Tatum's Gambit film. So without any further ado, let's get into it. It was supposed to be a game changer. A slick, R-rated X-Men spin-off starring Channing Tatum as the card-throwing Cajun anti-hero. For 5 years, it was greenlit, cast, rewritten, and reimagined over and over and over again. From a director's rotating door to a $150 million romantic heist movie to a company merger, what the hell happened to Channing Tatum's Gambit film? Now, are you an X-Men film fan, Alexei?
I am more of an X-Men fan than I am an X-Men film fan. I grew up reading the comics, and of course, you and I are about the same age, which is the exact right age for the Gambit era that is completely overwhelmed by that excellent 90s era animated series with the greatest banging theme song in the history of music. Not even just in the history of animated TV.
Hang on a sec. I should do this. Here it is. Great, it's so good.
And so I was a big X-Men fan growing up. In fact, one of the first things I ever owned in my life, which was a gift from my godfather that he bought because he was in Greece when I was born, which was the X-Men issue that came out in Greece the month that I was born.
Oh, really?
Which is, because it had to be translated in Greek, it was a few years late. So it was, not the coolest issue ever. It was about Dazzler, the disco singing superheroine, which, in 1991 may not have been an up-to-date issue.
No. You're so right. We are of the era where, whether or not we like to admit it, baked into our DNA, Gambit was cool and Venom was cool because that was just the era of comic books during the 90s when we were developing.
Was cool if we're going to go elsewhere in the comics universe.
Spawn was so cool. All I wanted as a kid, my greatest dream was one of those, like, Marquette-style Spawn action figures, having never read a single issue of the comic at that time.
I've never seen the movie or read an issue of the comic, and I would say growing up, one of my biggest dreams was to see the Spawn movie, and I still have never seen it.
It's really good, Alexei. You should check it out. I want to make a note of trepidation I have about this episode. And it's not because it's been requested for years. It's also not because we have now seen Gambit in live action and people have a more comparable thing to make sure that we get our scenes right. It's because I've seen in the feed of this podcast that the podcast Going Rogue has also covered this topic. And with 100% certainty, I know that they've done a better job.
That is an excellent podcast, I would say. Tansy Gardam is someone I admire a lot, a contemporary of ours, and different vibes on that podcast, though, but really good. I highly recommend everyone that loves this show listen to that podcast.
100%. If you like this show, you'll love Going Rogue. I've never met Tansy, but I do fear her. So the research I'm sure that's gone into that show is probably going to go even above and beyond. So if you like this episode, I'd say also go, I think it might be a Patreon bonus, but there's a sample of it on the feed. So go check that out.
I'll give a shout out to them. I just listened to the Kung Fu Panda 4 episode. It was awesome.
Okay, so to get into the Gambit film, we need a little bit of history to even work out how we got up to this. And at the beginning of the X-Men franchise, we have to go back to, it was started by a sex pest in the year 2000 called Bryan Singer, who occasionally would direct films.
Yes.
And
of course there was one line written by another sex pest, Josh Lee.
That is true. We actually covered that sex pest's Wonder Woman last episode. So we...
Actually, bleep that. That might be defamatory in Australian law.
That's true. That is a joke, to be clear. That's a joke.
We were satirical.
So we're after actually going to 2003 for the movie X2. And Bryan Singer, at that point, actually asked a stunt double called James Bamford to shoot a short cameo appearance as Gambit. So as far back as 2003, they've been trying to put Gambit in films. And they actually did film this, but it was cut from the final film. So all the way back then, there was already interest in trying to get Gambit into a film. This then bled over to the fact that they were now going to make X-Men 3. And they now thought, well, let's put Gambit in X-Men 3 since we had to cut him from X-Men 2. And this was when a bunch of casting started to go around. Reportedly, the choice that Bryan Singer wanted was Keanu Reeves. But I don't think there's any I don't think they ever actually tried that super hard.
Yeah, I think that sounds cool. I actually immediately go, that looks great. That sounds great. I can't imagine him really going for the accent, and I think that's okay with Keanu.
People forgive Keanu pretty much anything as long as he's Keanu. There couldn't have been a more different John Constantine, just visually accent-wise than Keanu, but everyone's like, it's cool. He's trying. So then Bryan Singer left before X-Men 3, and another alleged sex pest came on to direct that one. And they were talking about trying to add Gambit in. At this point, apparently the top choice was Josh Holloway from Lost.
Oh, Daddy like. I love that.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Oh, that's so spot on. I love Josh Holloway.
Unfortunately, the scheduling conflicts because of Lost, they were filming it in Hawaii, and there's like 23 episodes a season of that show. Couldn't really get out of it.
God, I love him and I love Lost.
There was reportedly one actor that was chosen for the role, and the character was written into the script, and they were officially cast before the character was dropped. This is a young up-and-coming actor at the time, hadn't yet broke out into fame. Who do you think that actor could have been in the mid-2000s?
Oh, gosh. Could it be like a Ryan Gosling?
That's a good guess, but it was actually Channing Tatum.
Oh, okay.
I've absolutely stitched you up there,
Okay, gosh, okay. Because I was like, I remember Channing Tatum being around at that time.
Yeah.
I actually had the name in my head to go, surely my friend's not going to fuck me over like that.
This is why you could never trust me. Yeah, so here's, I just want to point this out. I see this around that he was actually chosen back then. And I first saw it on the Wikipedia for the film. And, I can only trust Wikipedia so far. And then I've seen it stated in other articles, but the sources always lead back to that Wikipedia page.
Wow.
So I'd take that with a grain of salt.
The classic internet Ouroboros salute.
We're now in October 2007, and X-Men Origins Wolverine is shooting in the lovely country of Australia.
Of course, I had friends that worked on it back in the day.
And it's a real shame it's not a good movie.
But to lead on to probably what you're about to say, I did like the casting and the performance of Gambit in that movie.
Well, before that particular person was cast, apparently there was always the idea to bring back Channing Tatum. But by this point, he had signed a little contract that had tied him up to do G.I. Joe, which means he couldn't get out of G.I. Joe to go back and film Gambit. So instead, Taylor Kitsch was cast as Gambit. And you saying you like his performance in that film?
Yeah, I did. I like him, and I like that performance. I'm a John Carter of Mars guy.
You're a big Carter head.
Yeah, I'm a Carter head. I love John Carter of Mars.
So, fun fact, he actually signed a 3-picture deal to play Gambit in that film, but it was so badly received that he was never asked to come back.
But I think he's good in it. Like, I think it's really nice casting.
Yeah, he definitely suits the role. He's got that suave but kind of scumbag energy to him that a Gambit needs. And Taylor Kitsch, I think, in that era was being unfairly pigeonholed into like a bland action guy. But he's a really interesting actor. I think he doesn't get his due.
And he was so, at that time, I cannot stress to any listeners that are younger than us, how he was so primed and put on the pedestal for the big leagues. Like, there was no one that at that time felt like a surefire thing was going to be a big movie star. Yeah. Going from TV to going into the films, really, it was all about him. And it's interesting to see that it was from that cast that he was in. It's more Michael B. Jordan and then to a lesser extent Jesse Plemons that have gone on to have those careers.
So now we get onto the stone that starts the avalanche of this actual film. Because in September 2013, Channing Tatum, in a press junket for the movie White House Down, he actually, kind of apropos of nothing, they were asking him, who would you want to play with all these big superhero movies?
I would like to play Gambit. Gambit's my favorite. 'Cause I'm from New Orleans and around that area. My dad's from New Orleans, and I like to do the Cajun accent. I can do it for real. 'Cause no knock on Taylor Kitsch at all, because I actually like his Gambit. But I've always lived in around the Cajun people, and I would have liked to seen a little bit like. Gambit was like always like the woman loving, cigarette smoking, drinking. Like he was the punk rock of all the superheroes. He's a thief. He kind of rode the line.
And this is the first kind of indication that he is very publicly like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to campaign for this role. And this is where it starts to become the project that people might know or have heard about, because that's in late 2013. By early 2014, X-Men producer Laura Shue-Donna reveals that she's actually begun planning a film with Channing Tatum based on the fact that he's so publicly been talking about wanting to play Gambit. And in Empire, she said, it doesn't have to be a great big movie. It's a thief in New Orleans. It's a whole different story. Tatum's on board, and we have to get the studio on board. So that's when this officially kicks off. Do you know much about this production, Alexei?
I know a little bit. Just off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember because it was kind of reported on quite a bit back then.
Yeah.
And that was like of the era where I was quite the dedicated like slash film reader.
Yeah.
And to my memory as well, it's like a heist-ish type film.
It is, yeah. And the idea was always that it didn't need to be big. It just needed to be different enough to stand by itself. And a lot of this is, by the way, happening pre the first Deadpool.
Yeah.
So this still seems like a bit of a wild idea. Deadpool proved that it's actually completely doable, that you can have a smaller, different superhero movie. So by the May of the same year, Channing Tatum finally officially signs on to play Gambit, and it's intended to be a new franchise that is connected to X-Men, but like Deadpool would have its own series of films. And he was going to be introduced in the film X-Men Apocalypse in 2016. Now, do you remember his cameo from X-Men Apocalypse?
No, but I have seen that movie, and it's completely left my brain.
Well, there is no cameo in X-Men Apocalypse. It didn't happen.
But was there any hinting towards a Gambit in that movie?
No, none at all.
Okay,
But
interesting.
The important thing to note as well, by the way, that this film was being produced in the era of the X-Men films like to jump around in decades now.
Yeah.
So if you remember, First Class was in the 60s, Days of Future Past was in the 70s, Apocalypse was in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And because this was meant to tie into Apocalypse and him cameoing there, the Gambit film is also a period film.
Okay.
So it covers a few years, but it starts in the 60s, 70s, and then the majority of it is an 80s movie like Apocalypse was. Mm-hmm. So they hired a screenwriter who is Josh Zedemer, and he was working off a story treatment by Gambit's comic creator Chris Claremont. And in January 2015, Fox has now officially given an October 7th, 2016 release date. So Tatum reportedly approached 40 different directors, according to him.
Oh my gosh.
And most importantly, and we will get back to him next week, one of the people he approached was Sean Levy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, again, more of him next week.
Wow, I'm assuming John Turtletaub was in talks. I'm trying to think of who the guys at that time were that would get in that top 40.
I can tell you one of them. Because in June 2015, Rupert Wyatt signed on to direct the film.
Oh my gosh.
What do you make of a Rupert Wyatt? To me, he's a real journeyman director. But he's got a little bit of flair.
A little bit of flair, and in my area of expertise, I guess, relating to last time I was on, didn't he do Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
He did Rise of the Planet of the Apes, that's right, yeah.
And to be more in that Gambit style, The Gambler, which I think is a good one too. The remake of The Gambler with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, that's very true. I hadn't put together he'd done stuff with cards, which is a very important aspect of Gambit.
Exactly. Gambling, cards, Gambit. We like it. It's almost most of the same letters as well.
What I love about doing this research is finding out all the different films Channing Tatum was promoting when people were also asking him about Gambit. So during a Reddit AMA in which he was there to promote Magic Mike XXL, Tatum
Wonderful
said,
picture, by the way.
Tatum said, "We finally found someone that I really do believe wants to make Gambit and will be the second standalone character. And I just really think because Gambit is not the most popular or the biggest hero, I think there's a really unique opportunity. Marvel's done a lot of great movies that have made a ridiculous amount of money, and it's always good to figure out how we can change the form." So that he was feeling pretty good about Rupert Wyatt being able to come in.
Yeah, nice.
I will say,
it's so funny the way you just said it. They go, my brain just went, "Oh yeah, that sounds a good pick. I think this will go well." Having known a decade later that this never happened.
Never happened. And there is, and we'll get into this more next week, there became a real revolving door of directors coming in and out of this. But everything that we have, the script from Josh Zedemer, everything that we have is set around the Rupert Wyatt, Josh Zedemer version of Gambit. So there are other versions that came after, but this is the one we're focusing on. He also revealed in that AMA that he was no longer set to appear in Apocalypse. Though he had begun learning to throw cards, he had begun learning sleight of hand tricks, and he was being taught by a magician called David Kwong, who was going to teach him all of the tricks. Now, by the end of July, the film was now being reported as focusing on mobsters and thieves rather than end-of-the-world stakes. And Fox also wanted to load up on a spectacle and make this character as popular as possible with a reported $154 million budget, mainly to be set in Louisiana. Now, does that not seem in direct conflict to the quote just before where they're like, doesn't need to be big. It can be a small little film about thieves, but make it spectacular and here's $150 million.
Let the record show, if you're only listening to the audio version of it, my eyes widened incredibly. So much so that I think you may have even been able to pick it up in the audio.
Yeah. It became, there was a little wet Or your eyes opening even wider.
That is just bonkers cocoa bananas to me because it's antithetical to everything they're saying.
Yeah.
There's already superhero movies being made for less than that on a bigger scale than what is being promised here. It just sounds like they are not learning any of the lessons that by the time we reach the year of our good Lord 2025, they need to have learned by that point.
Yeah, and they still haven't, fun fact. Mm-hmm. So in August 2015, Zetema completes his second draft of the script. That's the specific one that we have. We have his second draft. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it is a period film that's jumping between decades. And at this point, we start also getting into casting. And before I get into the film casting, I want to let people know that our friend and former guest on this podcast, Cameron Logston, has come back and is voicing Gambit in this report. And I'm so excited because he's such a crazy good impressionist, but also a really good actor. And I just want people to know that we went to the best when we were looking for our Gambit. Cameron Logston is Gambit in this one. There are several actresses that were being tested for the female lead of the film. And this is for the role of Belladonna Boudreaux. And reportedly, Leah Seydoux, Rebecca Ferguson, and Abby Lee were all tested for this lead role.
Leah Seydoux, one of my favorite actors.
You're going to be very happy in just a moment, Alexei, let me tell you.
Wow.
With that, Leah Seydoux was cast in the role by the end of August. Now, here's an interesting point that I want to point out, which is that this is set in New Orleans, and Gambit himself is Cajun, and there's a lot of French kind of influence in New Orleans in the Cajun accent and things like this. However, even though the last name is Boudreaux, the role of Belladonna doesn't seem to be Cajun herself. So it's really interesting they cast a French actress because her entire family calls Gambit the Cajun.
Okay.
Which would be weird. It'd be like me calling someone else, like another Australian, the Aussie.
Yeah, fair enough.
It'd just be a weird thing to do. So I actually think they cast a French actress but weren't going to have her do the French Cajun accent.
Yeah,
It
she would
was
just be
like
French. She would just be French.
I actually think the family's like the Southern Belle style.
Oh wow!
Live on a big
I've
plantation
ever
home.
seen her attempt an accent.
No, yeah, I find it's just really weird because the other actresses, not French, so it makes sense that they were going for Southern girl with this. It's just funny that they end up casting a French girl to do it.
Awesome. Great choices so far, guys. Can't wait to see this movie.
Well, with all this in mind, do you want to finally hear what the hell Channing Tatum's Gambit movie was meant to be about? This mob heist movie, Channing Tatum, Leah Seydoux, Rupert Wyatt. Shall we get into it?
Nah. See you later, dudes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. This has been the end of the season, I guess.
Yeah.
Went out
there
with a
we
whimper.
go.
No, I think contractually we are obliged.
Oh no, God! I thought I had regained power.
So let's hit the film. The film starts in 1984, inside a maximum security mutant wing of the Louisiana Anglo State Penitentiary, known as the Red Hat Building, where 3 U.S. Marshals escort a restrained prisoner through the facility. The man is shackled in adamantium coils. He's masked and he's treated with extreme caution. When brought into the New Orleans courtroom, the prisoner is asked to state his name, and with a wry smile, he simply says,
The name is Remy LeBeau.
His striking appearance immediately causes a disruption among the jury. The female jurors grow so visibly infatuated with him to the point where they're all excused for bias. Now, is this not the most ham-fisted way to be like, just so you know, this guy's cool?
I think this is an awesome way. I'm like, this is an interesting tone this film sets within seconds.
Yeah. Because he's almost Hannibal Lecter, but he's sexy Hannibal Lecter. Mm-hmm. he's tied up, he's marked, but as soon as he speaks, every woman, in fact, it says even more than women, everyone in the courtroom is obsessed with him.
Okay, love it. Love this.
So the story now jumps back to 1955, where during a rainy garden party at a wealthy Bordeaux plantation, Luke LeBeau is posing as a servant. He sneaks away to commit a robbery. And now Luke is a skilled and composed thief. He climbs into the attic and he breaks into a safe, only to discover that someone has beaten him to the prize. He chases the mysterious thief through the fields and into the slums of Storyville, where he discovers the culprit is a 6-year-old boy. The boy has no family and he lives in a shanty. He finds a whole collection of things that the kid has stolen, including a beautiful engagement ring. And Luke discovers this boy is named Remy. He's an orphan living by himself, and eventually he brings him into his own hideout. This is a ramshackle boat-based compound which houses a crew of young thieves. This is known as Crew LeBeau. They're kind of a found family of different grifters and thieves, and the other kids in this family start to mock and roughhouse with Remy until Remy's mutant abilities to kinetically charge object is accidentally triggered one day. Luke recognizes that this could be dangerous, but decides to keep Remy around to help him grow up properly, noting that his potential value to the crew would outweigh that danger. And Remy is finally accepted into the fold. So we're getting a real found family kind of situation here where Remy was a orphan living in a slum that's been rescued by the LeBeau crew. So we're now years later. It's 1964, and a 14-year-old Remy is now confidently leading market thieves through the New Orleans streets with his cousin Henri and Charlie. By the way, side point, there's a lot of French names in this. I'm trying my darndest to make sure I'm pronouncing them right, and I've gone with the French pronunciation of Henry.
Wow.
But if I mess any up, please, my dumb, thick Australian accent is actually really hard to say some of these names.
Yes. Yeah, I think Australian to French is one of the hardest that there is. Like, I always struggle with it. I'm like, Francois Truffaut, whenever I'm talking.
Leah Seydoux.
Yes, I love it. Jean-Luc Godard.
I also want to point out, I'm fairly confident in this, is that when I went to New Orleans, it's a real yuppie thing to say New Orleans.
Okay.
So I'm specifically trying to say New Orleans, but from what I understand as well is that the real people from there say Norlands.
Norlands.
But I'm not authentic enough to get away with that, so New Orleans is what it is.
And I will be saying New Orleans. I'll be really overpronunciating everything.
So they're running from the police. They've just done a big heist. It's Remy, Henri, and Charlie. And during one of their escapes, through their escape route, Remy stumbles into a psychic parlor. And he meets a 13-year-old girl named Belladonna Bourgeois. And this girl has psychic abilities. And their first meeting is a little bit confrontational. She nearly kind of stabs him with a knife on her table. But when they both use their powers to escape the police that are looking for Remy, there's a mutual respect and attraction that forms. And when the police close in, Bella helps him escape, and the two join forces to elude capture, eventually stealing a police car together before finally being arrested. And we cut to the police station where their guardians arrive, Luke LeBeau and Bella's mother, Marianne. Now, Marianne is a powerful and intimidating mob figure, and each blames the other for their child being in trouble. Outside, Remy and Bella are pulled away from their respective crews, but it's very clear here that they're very, very drawn to each other. How are you feeling about this as a setup of, you need to get the origin of young Remy and how he's learning to do this stuff. Are you finding it kind of convincing so far?
So far, yes. I think that intro into the film and then doing a cutback, well, this is how I got here by living my entire life. It can sometimes be a bit hackneyed, but I think there's a nice sense of place with like the way that they're at least creating a New Orleans type feeling. But, you know, compared to a lot of other superhero movies that have zero sense of place. But, you know, it's not authentic or anything, but it's it's nice. It's fun.
It is. And it is like, it's such a cliche now to say that the city of a film was a character in the film. But they are trying as hard as they can to make sure that this is very New Orleans set and very New Orleans in its vibe. And these opening scenes, they're jumping through a lot of iconic New Orleans locations already. So I think they're trying their best to make a sense of place in the movie rather than like a generic grey city. So in 1974 now, and now adult Remy breaks into the Bordeaux estate. And it's clear now that he has kind of greater control over his kinetic powers. In fact, he uses his kinetic energy with a custom tool to silently break into the home. He charges it in the lock and kind of blows the lock to get into the home. We now cut to Bella in her bedroom when she suddenly hears a noise.
Remy? That you?
Bella looks puzzled as her cousin Vincent rounds the corner, his arms full of Dixie beer.
Belle, you coming to the guild, mate? Party's supposed to be righteous.
Bella watches in horror as Gambit's hand sneaks out of the shadow behind Vincent, silently stealing one of his beers.
Yeah, Vincent. I wouldn't miss it.
Bella darts into the shadow, finds Gambit coolly drinking a beer.
Have you lost your damn mind? Mama sees you, she'll dump your ass in the swamp.
Risk I'm willing to take.
They're gonna hear.
You sure? You want me to go, Shell?
Nah, you can stay. On one condition. Let me go up inside your head while we're making love. I just think it'd be nice is all. Make me feel closer to you.
You really want to know what's up in his head, Shell?
Of course I do.
Well, go on then.
Their bodies become charged with a static pulse as Bella reads Gambit's mind. We flash to a revolting image. Gambit's fat cousin Henri sits pants down eating KFC on a toilet. He looks right at the camera.
What's up?
Back to the scene.
You damn pervert.
Ooh, I walked in on Cousin Henri last week. Saved the memory just for you.
Let me go. What the hell's wrong with you?
Downstairs in the kitchen, a crab boils in a pot. Marianne cooks while her boys watch wrestling on TV.
Jules, honey, go tell Belle it's time for supper.
Back in Bella's bedroom now. Gambit and Bella are on her bed. The TV in the background rolls footage from days of future past.
You know, I might be coming into some money soon. Maybe we should elope.
For real? Like to Vegas or something?
Well, I'm partial to Paris myself, but you want Vegas? I'll give you Vegas.
Big talk. You ain't even left New Orleans.
That's exactly the reason to do it. Just hop in the Cadillac, stop at the first chapel we see.
I always saw our wedding as one of those funky parades down Frenchman. Both our families there.
Yeah, well, I know family is important and all, but sometimes.
What? Say it.
Sometimes I wonder why you fawn over all your family. When they don't even know the real you feel me?
You know, I never really dug that word. Mutant. Only way to describe us, and it sounds like a slur.
For real. Shit sounds outlandish.
You do get that it's different for me, right? Your folks ain't gonna judge you. Mama's just a little more old school, is all.
Belle, you in there? Supper time.
Just a sec.
Gambit quickly darts to the window.
When can I see you again? Y'all are hitting that election thing up, ain't you?
Oh no, you definitely ain't on that guest list. Now, will you please scoot?
Young love, Alexei. Wow. Young love.
Beautiful written romance. I can feel the tension building, especially around Gambit's cousin taking a dump while finger licking up that Kentucky Fried.
Yeah, and I hate to be like a white guy in my 30s, but he's so cool. He's just a cool
Gambit
guy.
rocks, dude. He's the coolest comic book character ever. He throws cards with kinetic energy in them that explode.
He can call people Cher, and it's cool for some reason.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, yeah, it's cool. But we are seeing now that they are clearly in love, and that nothing tragic will surely happen between them.
I hope so.
These are things we know for
I
sure.
did like that little integration. Actually, I don't know if I liked it, but I think it's worth noting the integration of the footage from Days of Future Past being on the TV.
Yeah.
Because it's a way to connect them without over egging it so far, of being like, okay, this is part of this X-Men universe, but only like fans would notice that while they're watching it.
Yeah, there are a few moments like that throughout the script where they make pretty overt references, but to be like, that's the larger world. Like, that's going on out there. That's not what this story is. And they do specifically often call out, like in this scene direction, that it's from a specific film. But it also helps set the time period of this scene, which is in the 70s, which is the setting of that. Yeah, so yeah, I agree. I think it's subtler than it has been in other movies. You know, it's enough to be like, yeah, this is happening over in the background. So Gambit is now left, and him and his family are preparing for quite a bold new job. They want to rob the Federal Reserve Bank. Luke, Henri, Charlie, and Gambit, they're scouting out the site in disguise. And Henri and Charlie, they're eager to go ahead, but Gambit, he's saying that there's some details they missed, like the presence of multiple Treasury agents, and he concludes that this job is probably too ambitious for their crew alone. Instead, Gambit proposes a radical solution, teaming up with their longtime rivals, the Bourgeois family. Now, is he doing this just to get to his sweet, sweet girl? Who knows? But he's saying, I know that we have always been at war with them, but we're going to need them to pull this heist off. And if we work together, we can have this huge score. So at a high-end society Assassins Guild party.
Oh my gosh.
But there's a lot of, by the way, in this script, like parties of secret societies that are just happening in big Louisiana-style manners.
Louisiana always feels like the setting for those things. It's like we've got lots of European stuff that you'd more think is a movie from Europe kind of thing. But actually, this is part of America is essentially Europe and cool.
That's true. It is the pseudo-Europe for movies, isn't it? Mm-hmm. They're at an Assassin's Guild party, and Marianne Bourgeois, she's conducting kind of backroom dealings with different city officials. She's exchanging bribes for influence when Gambit and the LeBeaus crash the event. Julian Bourgeois, who's Balor's brother, he starts to antagonize Gambit, nearly drawing a weapon on him, but Gambit takes control of the situation by being quite charming, and he presents this joint bank heist as a business opportunity. He pitches it as a two-crew job requiring a mutual trust and shared profit. Marianne is skeptical, especially regarding Gambit's relationship with his daughter, but he speaks pretty plainly and he says that yes, he cares for Bella, but really he wants to prove to Marianne his worth. So Marianne is reluctantly on board. So they prepare for the heist. They're loading up motorcycles into a disguised slaughterhouse truck, with the LeBeaus in kind of skeletal zombie-style face paint, and the Bourgeois are in more standard balaclavas. And together they form a 40-person crew. And at the Federal Reserve, the truck arrives at the rear entrance. Gambit and Bella lead the charge. They blast into the Federal Reserve on motorbikes. Together, they storm the bank floor, firing shots into the ceiling, and they start to establish control while the full crew follows. So this is a motorbike-based bank heist that we're seeing here.
Cool. This is cool.
It's cool. I love this idea of like, I don't know, it's just something a bit different, you know? Mm-hmm. Everyone's
it's a bit different in that like Italian Job had Mini Coopers and now we've got motorbikes. So it's a little bit different.
It's different in that you've seen the guy run into the bank, stand up onto the bench and shoot into the sky a million times. Mm-hmm. At least now they're kind of doing burnouts on motorbikes as they do it.
That is cool.
So they're intimidating hostages, they're securing doors, and they're accessing the vault. So Luke uses a cutter to breach the gate, and Gambit's team reaches the vault itself. And he hammers in a large steel wedge under the door, and then he uses his kinetic power to charge it, and it blows the door. And then slowly, the door to the vault opens.
Ooh, jackpot.
The men start loading up the money, dumping it in backpacks. Gambit glances down the corridor.
Hold up. You said it was just one vault. So what at door number 2?
My blueprints must have been old. It don't matter. Stick to the plan.
Nah. I think I could do it.
Are you nuts? We ain't got the time.
It's true, bruh. Sometimes you gotta know when to fold.
We could have planned for this if you did your job. Why's it always amateur hour with you, man?
Hey, I'm sorry.
Just keep the boudoir upstairs while I'm doing my thing. You can do that, can't you?
Henri wheels away, pissed. Gambit approaches the second vault, begins charging the steel wedges under the door. The door opens. Bella's stopwatch beeps.
That's it. We gotta move on.
Behind a security grill, he can see stacks of gold bars.
Look at those gold bars. Baby, I'm doing this for us. We could take this money, get our asses down to Chihuahua, Mexico. This could be our big win.
Baby, look at this money. We've already won.
Gambit's charging up the metal security grill with his bare hands.
Remy, come on. We gotta split. I ain't screwing around.
Baby, I could do this. 1 minute.
Bella's eyes roll back into her head. Using her powers, she sees images flood into her mind. A police car approaching. 2 cops entering from the side door. She snaps back.
Remy, now!
No.
Almost right about here.
And with that, Bella, tears in her eyes, runs back to meet the main heist on the floor as Gambit's obsessed with the score. I love a heist. I'm so happy that this is a superhero heist movie.
Me too, and I think that's the most effective moment of the thing so far is that integration of powers to the job, like him charging up the steel that will explode the door off the vault. There's something in that I think that just feels, oh, that's a trick that was hit right there.
Yeah, exactly. And when reading this, it struck me to remember that because these are the period films, this is where like people don't necessarily know that people are mutants yet. So this idea that like Bella, for example, in the first scene said, you know, she keeps it secret from a lot of people because her family doesn't approve. And everything she's doing is kind of hiding it, where he's a little bit more overt with his. I think it's such a cool setup for a superhero movie that it still probably hasn't really been done. So Bella runs back into the main Federal Reserve area where the heist is continuing. And she begins to panic on the bank floor, realizing that the police are closing in and unsure of where they might strike. And she publicly activates her psychic powers. Her eyes roll back into her head, and she locates 2 hidden police behind a locked balcony door. The Boudreaux gunmen swiftly subdue the officers, but suddenly the revelation that Bella is a mutant is now out in the open, and it stuns everyone there on the bank floor. Julian, her brother, reacts violently. He grabs Bella by the throat and he demands answers. Gambit appears from the vault just in time, knocking Julian away and throwing a charged gold bar to stop him from firing. The moment's really tense. Gambit stands beside Bella, encouraging her to reveal that she's like him, she's a mutant, but she hesitates. And when her mother, Marianne, calls her, Bella goes back to her side away from Gambit. Vincent aims a gun at Gambit. This prompts Henri and Charlie to also draw their weapons in turn, and suddenly there's a standoff in the middle of the floor of the bank, as both families point guns at each other, surrounded by terrified civilians. Luke steps in trying to de-escalate the situation and urges everyone to stand down. Guns slowly begin to lower, until Julian lunges for his pistol. Gambit, already anticipating it, hurls a kinetically charged tarot card, and the explosion kills Julian instantly and injures the nearby Boudreaux men. The bank erupts into chaos, gunfire, screaming, confusion, and in the shootout, Luke is mortally wounded also. Henri catches his dying father while Gambit looks on in horror, unable to identify who it was that fired that fatal shot. The surviving LeBeaus and the Boudreaux scatter, fleeing from the police in separate directions. Gambit and Bella go their separate ways without ever speaking. At the LeBeau household, all the cousins blame Gambit for Luke's death. Henri, enraged, physically attacks him, punching him, pulling a gun and finally knocking out one of his teeth with a gold bar. Charlie, once Gambit's closest friend, even joins in the condemnation. Gambit is cast out by the only family he's ever known. So Remy walks alone into the bayou and disappears into the darkness. So that is the entire almost first act of this film, which is all kind of just a setup to get Gambit to be that thief loner.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about this setup?
Pretty fun. The action sounds good, but I think it is like a successful integration of like heisty crime suave crime with superhero action. Like there's something that actually feels like, I mean, you know, I'm looking at it with hope in my heart that it feels like something that could work.
Yeah, I think so. So far, I think that this does feel unique as well, which is what their pitch was initially, is they wanted to do something different and unique, and I think that this feels like that. I don't think this feels like any superhero movie I could think of now.
Yeah, at least it's like it actually might not be very unique as far as crime and heist movies go. Like it's probably
not at
more
all.
derivative of those kind of things, but there is a group in culture that only go see superhero films. And I think this would be like giving them a little bit something different, at least. Like, you know, if they're going for just one core audience, which is superhero film goers, which is a big audience, it would be unique to them at least.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to alienate any of our listenership, but I feel the same about The Winter Soldier. Which is like, as a superhero film, it is quite novel. As a government conspiracy film, it's super run-of-the-mill.
Yes.
It's about as cliched on the nose as you could ever expect. But the fact that it is a superhero movie leaning into that makes it interesting.
Exactly. It's so funny you mentioned that because I remember when I first saw that film in the cinema, I was like felt electrified by it. And I was a fan of like those 70s paranoid political conspiracy thrillers at that time. Seen probably all of them. Or not all of them, that's insane to have said. But all the big like marquee titles like your Alan J. Pakula films, like All the President's Men, Parallax, Clute. And then I remember just being like, this is one of the best superhero films ever made. And then rewatching it years later and just being like, oh, this did almost nothing for me.
Yeah. It is. I find it really interesting when that happened. I felt the same about X-Men First Class.
That one I might still go to bat for, but I haven't seen it for years too. But that was the first time I saw an X-Men movie going like, oh, they finally made an X-Men movie for me, a guy that likes X-Men.
So we now actually do a time jump. We're now into the 80s. It's 10 years later. And we finally re-meet Remy LeBeau, now in his 30s, and he resurfaces in Paris. He's living a decadent but hollow life. He's wealthier and he's dressed very fashion-forward, and a gold tooth replaces the one that was knocked out during his exile.
Cool, like that.
It's a good touch, good
I
kind
like
of scumbag touch. His wardrobe includes everything from like fur-trimmed trench coats to striped bike shorts. He's very eclectically dressed. And Gambit now works with a European crew on high-end art thefts. He's brought into a job and he's introduced to the backer of the job, Jacob Gavin, or just Jake. The team includes Alphonse, who is a mutant with kind of a scabrous skin.
Ooh.
Gambit bristles at the idea of working with another mutant, warning Jake that they're not trustworthy. The crew's target is the Louvre, still under construction in 1983. And their objective is to steal Raphael's St. Michael vanquishing Satan. But the job goes sideways. Gambit slips, triggering the alarm, and steel barriers fall, trapping all of his teammates. Then calmly, Gambit chews his gum, charges it with his kinetic energy, places it on the glass, and then uses his kinetic energy to blow through the plexiglass. He steals the painting and abandons all the others, ignoring Alphonse's angry accusations that he's betraying one of his own kind. And Gambit escapes alone. Later, the stolen painting ends up hanging in an exclusive Paris nightclub. Gambit, now fully immersed in excess, he's lounging shirtless in a nightclub, kind of surrounded by beautiful models and musicians and high society people. And despite all the hedonism, he seems emotionally vacant. But it is there he meets Jacqueline, who is a stunning French woman who takes an immediate interest in him. Their chemistry is pretty instant and physical, and they start making out in the booth. The next morning, we're in Gambit's lavish loft, high in an old French clock tower.
Awesome.
With an elevator the only way up or down. So he's waking up in his clock tower. Space is cluttered with stolen art, artifacts, and remnants of the never-ending party lifestyle that he's leading. And Jacqueline, she lounges in Gambit's shirt as he stirs awake.
There is nothing sexier than a woman wearing a man's...
Her body starts to change, shape-shifting into Jake, the backer from last night.
Do we? Does your...
Anatomy change as well? Indeed.
Look, I get down with some freaky shit, but this is on another level. You need to take your little man purse and, the hell is this? You got a dossier on me?
Relax. I didn't come to gay Patty for Raphael and a one-night stand.
You don't care about the painting?
My employer is not exactly an art lover. He wanted to see how good you were. And scruples or not, I think you could have robbed the Louvre in your sleep. He wants to hire you for a real job.
I'll be honest, dude. You are one world-class lay. But whatever this is, I'm not the one who's supposed to get hustled.
You haven't even heard about the job yet. It's in New Orleans.
New Orleans ain't got nothing worth stealing. Anyway, I ain't welcome back in the Pleasure City. My whole crew.
They're almost all dead. I'll be wiped out by the Bordeaux.
Yeah, well, they ain't my crew no more. So why don't you find yourself another thief?
My employer is acutely aware that of all the great thieves in the world, only one has an honest motivation. He wants to pay you $40 million to rob Belladonna and her family.
Who's your boss?
Sorry, and I'm afraid my employer should stay out the spotlight.
You know, as appealing as all of this sounds, something doesn't feel right. I think I'm gonna pass.
You know, my employer suspected you might say no. He asked me to give you this.
Jake gives Gambit a tape.
Just a little personal message from him to you. He told me to tell you it's the answer to the question you've been asking for 10 years.
I'm not playing these bullshit mind games.
If you do happen to change your mind, my flight leaves at noon.
Pretty clear call to adventure there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the coolest thing about this scene is that the tape that they give Gambit is a Betamax tape.
That's awesome.
But yes, very clear now. He's been offered the chance to rob the Bordeaux family, the family that he feels has wronged him, for $40 million. Get something back.
40 mil, not too bad.
Especially in the 80s.
Oh my God, that's like $700,000 billion now.
So Gambit slips the mysterious Betamax tape into the wall of televisions in his clock tower. And what plays is not a message, but raw surveillance footage from the Federal Reserve heist a decade ago.
Ooh.
Gambit watches the events replay.
Hopefully this is from the eyes of a Betamax mutant that could record things with his eyes.
Yeah, from the mutant Betamax.
I love this character.
So Bella is pulling away from him in the footage, and the other families are all turning on each other, but most crucially, he sees Marianne Bordeaux step up behind Luke and shoot him in the back. Silent and furious, Gambit leaves his apartment without a word. So now we see that it is Marianne Bordeaux that has killed his father. He's now not only there to rob them, but he wants revenge. And we actually cut to New Orleans, and in 1983, it's now drastically changed. The city is now actually partially submerged due to a catastrophic tidal wave caused by Magneto's manipulation of Earth's magnetic fields. So that's another cool little way to tie in the larger world without really having to address it fully. It also leans into the imagery of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina a lot in this. The city has been flooded. So many levees have broken. It's leaving entire neighborhoods underwater. And Gambit is driven across the bridge into New Orleans by Jake, who explains that the government gave all the aid to New York, but not to New Orleans because too many mutants live in New Orleans. Gambit demands that Jake pull over. He strips off his coat and he dives off the causeway into the sunken bayou below. Swimming through telephone poles and reeds, he reaches the wreckage of his childhood home, the houseboat where the LeBeau crew once lived, now partially underwater and rotting. Inside the sunken remains, Gambit searches for Luke's old safe. Underwater, he charges the metal with kinetic energy and explodes it open. And among the drifting content, Gambit finds an old engagement ring in his leather satchel. And inside the leather statue are more mementos of his youth, like trinkets, a cigarette case, photo of himself as a child with a couple that he doesn't really know but thinks might be his parents. Returning soaked to Jake's car, Gambit is now quite reflective. They now arrive at their next destination. It's a weathered shotgun house in the 9th Ward, standing alone in a sea of storm wreckage. Barefoot children run around wild outside, and a woman in a deck chair eyes Gambit, and Jake is now Jacqueline in this scene, as they warily approach a house of some of Gambit's old teammates.
What are we doing way down in the nines? This is a pigsty.
Meeting the rest of your crew.
Get some industrial division. You're gonna burn your eyebrows off again.
Oh, hell no.
Wait, for real? You said you was bringing us a ringer.
And I have.
Look at his coat. Dude's dressed like he's on a safari. Oh.
First off, Henri, this is European.
Boys, this isn't a one-man operation, and no one reputable will work with any of you. Like it or not, you're the best men for the job.
I tell you what he is. He bad luck. Dude's a black cat walking under a ladder on Friday the 13th.
Okay, this was a mistake.
Yeah, good. Abandon us. I know that's your go-to move.
Abandon you. Y'all abandon me.
You're right, Rem. We screwed up. Some shit got said that can't be unsaid. But we're hanging by a thread here, man. Marianne's rolling with some real bad dudes, and if she get her way, we'll be wiped clean off the map. Be like Remy LeBeau never even existed. We need you, bro.
I don't know. Is Henri gonna apologize for pulling a piece on me?
I don't know. Are you gonna apologize for choosing Bella over us?
Okay, if that's all wrapped up, we have a surveillance run on the books.
Let's be straight about this. If we do this job, we ain't family no more. Just accomplices.
Fine by me.
Man, and there he goes.
The more this leans into heist cliche, the more I just kind of enjoy it. I love an old crew getting back together.
Me too, man. It just works. Just works for me. Can't help it.
Yeah, like Henri being combative, his other cousin Charlie being, a bit more apologetic. It's all so cliche, and it's all just fun. Like I genuinely, my love of heist movies definitely influences this, but I think so far this is a really fun script.
Agree.
So the old LeBeau crew is now back together to pull off this heist, but through a series of flashbacks being told to Gambit in the intervening 10 years, we learn that during the major storm, someone used the chaos as a cover for a violent, coordinated heist. Mutant assassins, led by the seismic-powered Richter, attacked various neighborhoods, killing targets and looting properties, and a series of brutal murders also unfolded. The Vanisher twins, a teleporting crew of petty thieves from Dallas, they cleared out mansions in Uptown using their rapid-fire heisting style. And behind it all, according to Henri, was Marianne Bourgeois, who had quietly paid off mutant mercenaries and carted away much of the city's wealth. So in that 10 years, Marianne has now started working with mutants and has gained control of a lot of the crime in New Orleans now. In the present, Gambit and the crew surveil the Bordeaux plantation, which has become a fortified compound at this point. They see a cargo van enter the estate while the LeBeaux are watching from Henri's parked car. Gambit is stunned to learn that Marianne has started working with mutants. Charlie speculates that Bella may have changed her mother's views. Henri presents a detailed plan to follow up and go in and do a proper heist, showing off blueprints and security layouts. But Gambit, he dismisses this outright, and he simply leaps the fence and walks into the compound alone. His cousins panic but follow. Inside the plantation grounds, the crew watches as thugs unload green pills marked with a hand-drawn double helix, some kind of mysterious drug. Peering through the cracks into the wooden structures, they see piles of stolen treasure hidden throughout the buildings. Despite Charlie and Henri's pleas to leave, Gambit walks directly into the main house. They realize too late that he is not there for the loot. He wants to see Bella. We cut inside the kitchen. Bella is now older and she has short blonde hair. She senses something. Her orange disappears from the counter. She turns and there he is, standing in the corner, peeling her orange.
I like the hair. This old Debbie Harry thing you got going. I thought after all these years, you'd be a little more talkative, no?
They said you was dead. What are you doing here?
Oh, just making money in Atlanta, Dixie.
Hope you know there's about a dozen boys out back who shoot you on sight.
Yeah? Thought you'd have shot me already. Mama still got that Beretta hidden in that cupboard there.
Nah. I'm giving you a grace period till you tell me what the hell you want.
A little birdie told me you pulled off a real big score. I'm getting paid to steal it back. So I thought, how about y'all pay me double, not two?
I see time ain't diminished that ego none.
If you're gonna steal for a living, it's important to be honest about it. My daddy used to say that.
Last I recall, you gave my cousin the double shuffle.
Well, now that boy drew a firearm.
LeBeau.
Marianne stands in the doorway with two guards. She's blonde now too.
Your hair too? Wait, so did y'all go blonde at the same time?
Kill him.
So the two bodyguards that Marianne has are the Vanisher twins. And they appear in the doorway blocking escape. When one threatens Gambit, he silently breaks the orange and holding it in 3 pieces and he charges them all. The kettle in the kitchen is screeching. Gambit uses the distraction and hurls the charged orange and it blasts, tears apart some kitchen cabinets. As Bella grabs the gun, Gambit vanishes. Fleeing through the house, Gambit is pursued by the teleporting twins, who are materializing and vanishing with dizzying speed. He battles them through room to room in a chaotic, high-speed brawl. Eventually, Gambit dives out the window and into the hedge maze below. He reaches the front of the estate and hotwires Vincent's flashy pink Cadillac. Bella nearly shoots him but hesitates just long enough for him to miss. As Gambit escapes, cousin Charlie jumps in too. And moments later, Richter, this seismic-powered mutant, appears in pursuit on a motorbike. Gambit and Charlie find Henri sprinting through the trees, shockingly fast. Henri rips one of the Cadillac's back doors off and dives in. He admits that he's been using the mutant genome drug that were being stored in the shed. And he's kind of secretly gone off and taken some and it's given him the mutant abilities. The high-speed chase barrels through New Orleans. Richter's concussive blasts are destroying cars and pavements. And as Richter draws close, Gambit has an idea. He suddenly swerves hard and crashes the Cadillac through the front doors of a police station. The cops, stunned, arrest the 3 LeBeau boys without hesitation, just as Gambit had done. While outside, the Bourgeois family arrive a little bit too late. Marianne scolds Bella for hesitating to shoot, and Marianne sends Vincent to retrieve someone, a mutant assassin named Fifolet. Vincent kind of protests a bit. Fifolet, he's known for his brutality, but she insists. As Gambit is now in prison with his cousins. But something more dangerous is coming for him now. Well, we have come to the end of part 1 of our report on Channing Tatum's Gambit film. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we would love it for you to subscribe, be it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen. That really helps us get discovered in the charts. It would also be terrific if you could give us a 5-star rating, or most importantly of all, tell a friend. We're completely independent here at Cancelled Movie Report, so your support really does mean the world to us. And hey, what do you think of the movie so far, and have we missed anything? We'd love to hear from you. You can always get in touch with us via cancelledmovies@gmail.com or at Cancelled Movies on all of the socials. And if there's a cancelled movie project you've always wanted to hear about, why not let us know? You can fill out a form in the episode description alerting us to a project, and we may just give it the Cancelled Movie Report treatment. That is how this episode was made. I am Michael Campbell. I have hosted, edited, and produced this episode. And Alexei, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I've made you sign a contract that says legally you must return next week to hear how this ends. I hope that's okay.
I think I'll stick around, Cambo. I think I'll stick around for this one. I'm already on tenterhooks to find out what happens to our hero, Gambit.
We also have to thank our amazing voice cast, which included Cameron Logston, Lydia Caswell, Arian Moore, Michael Hahn, and Danny Siller. Next week, we find out how Gambit can best his rivals, or in fact, if he can best his rivals. But if you can't wait, here's a sneak peek.
Do you know what killed Elvis Presley?
He died on the toilet. So what?
Some people say it was drugs, but some say it was the loss of a woman he loved very deeply. His mother.
What's your point?
In other words, I'm afraid I paid good money for an artist, and what I got was a fat Elvis.
But until then, take care.